It's now time to bring you the part two of our conversation on the show today. Now, as part of its mandate to coordinate and monitor all investment promotion activities in the country, the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission recently announced the launch of the EOSIC platform. That's the virtual platform of the One-Stop Investment Center. The NIPC says with the completion of the EOSIC platform, investors can now have access to all services offered at the One-Stop Investment Center remotely and also apply for business registration, submit relevant documents and make appropriate fee payments. Now, with these, the Commission is hopeful that it would also help track and review the services of participating agencies at the center, which will in turn improve the effectiveness of the EOSIC platform and ensure timely services. And joining me now to discuss this and more, I have the Associate Director of the Head of Regulatory Compliance and Advisory Services, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Olaitan Adedeji. Good to have you on the show today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, this is a highly commendable platform, the EOSIC platform, looking at a seamless one-stop investment center. Now, to what extent do you see this platform pushing more aggressively the agenda of investment promotion and simplifying the process to achieve this?
Thank you. I'm hoping that this is going to be what it promises to be. It's been a long time coming. It's something that should have happened a long time ago, but no time like now, no time like the present.
Exactly.
So it seems quite ambitious, but it is a welcome development. I recall that the executive order in 2017 that was pursuant to the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council mandate had tried to put in these kind of reforms, and they talked about making easy the approvals to be gotten from government agencies, entry experience for visitors, and particularly a one government mandate, which is basically saying that it's one government in Nigeria. Let's cut the bottlenecks of people going from one MDA to the other trying to get approvals. So that's exactly what this is trying to speak to now, saying when you want to come into Nigeria to do business, this is a one-stop center where you can access multiple government ministries and agencies to get your approvals in good time. So this is a very welcome development. How far it will go is yet to be seen, but we're happy this is around now.
Looking at the NIPC also stating that this would also help track and then review services of participating agencies at the center. Now, at the heart of this really speaks to timely services, quicker response time, all of these, wouldn't you say, as these remains a major quest for us to achieve in terms of our ease of doing business index, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, absolutely. So part of the challenges we've had with ease of doing business index in Nigeria has been the bottlenecks around getting things done and all of that. So this one-stop center is supposed to be, first of all, a repository of information, so you can access whatever information you need to make an informed decision. Then you can also access the forms and fees and all of that. And I recall that the Presidential Committee had said all MDAs must have their fees on their website. People must have access to whatever fees and information they need to make decisions about investment. So this is going to be where you can access those things. And then part of the mandate the agency has also is to ensure that it coordinates and manages the MDAs in achieving investment in Nigeria. Now, that's a sticky one because many times these agencies sort of operate in silos. So this is the first time we're going to have a coordinating supervising agency. And that's why I say I hope it works. That would ensure that, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. This is how you're supposed to do it. And why is it not being done in time? I also recall that the Presidential Committee had said that there must be sanctions for heads of MDAs that do not meet the target for whatever turnaround time they're supposed to have. So I would assume that there would be service level agreements in place. For instance, that would be the basis for expectations from these MDAs. And if you fall short of those expectations, there would be consequences. So because without consequences, everything we're talking about is moot. things will go back to normal as quickly as, this initiative came up. So we're hoping that we wouldn't just have this in place, we would also have consequence management, would hold people accountable for what their ministries are supposed to do in making this work.
And in terms of making this work now, I'd like us to paint a best and worst case scenario now. This launch of the e-platform is expected to open a wide area of opportunities and in terms of seamless operations, but this is not going to be the first. Let's call a spade at this point in time. So painting a best and worst case scenario, what do you think will likely play out and the mistakes we shouldn't make? You've made mention of consequence management and a whole lot more.
Absolutely. So best case scenario is this hits the ground running. We have technology that is cutting edge, that would have very limited downtime. So when people get on, they can actually get good technology to leverage on. It's optimized for the purpose. We have complete information on the website that people can access. And then the back end also, we have trained people who can attend to whatever back end needs that they may have. So in that case, we're looking at cutting approval times by 70%, 80%, best case scenario. And that would be very useful at this time, because Nigeria absolutely needs to position itself properly in the light of the African Continental Trade Agreement to ensure that it is a competitive market for investors to come in. And so it's not just that they're milking the Nigerian market, but they're also sitting in Nigeria and investing in Nigeria to reach other African countries. So best case scenario, we have a seamless system that encourages investment and people are drawn to coming into Nigeria. Worst case scenario is the platform doesn't work, or the platform is online and then information won't be downloaded by people that need to work on it and get the approvals out. Worst case scenario is ministries and agencies aren't speaking to themselves. So whatever is supposed to come from this ministry and flow to the other ministry is bottlenecked. And so things on the surface look like we've put something in place, but at the back end, nothing is working. We're hoping that's not the direction we'll be going, but that's the worst case scenario.
Now, let's also look at a bigger picture away from this EOSIC platform now. One report we've also had from the NIPCs in terms of investment announcements for the third quarter of this year. As part of the reports tracked, we've seen $8.9 billion recorded for the third quarter of this year. This is well over 130% more than the value we recorded at the peak of COVID-19 year 2020. Now, would you say this clearly shows that the Nigerian economy is fast opening up and we are seeing the economic recovery process being consolidated upon? Would you say that?
Yes, it did. Things are opening up. Investors are more confident now. We can't say it's post-COVID, but we're learning to live our lives with the pandemic before us. So yes, things are opening up. Investors are more confident and coming in, and it's actually gladdening and heartwarming that this is not oil-based announcements. Most of these in fact, about all of them are coming from outside oil and gas. So it's a welcome development. It looks like we're going in the right direction. But I'm quick to also recognize that these are investment announcements, and I'm hoping that they will translate to actual investment inflows, especially from foreign direct investment. So these are announcements, and we're hoping that they crystallize if, again, we put everything that we need to put in place to ensure that investors have the confidence and the ease of coming into Nigeria to do business.
And then also, one of the issues we have to look at right now as we're discussing economic recovery and the investment climate in Nigeria, we also have to look at commercial viability of states. Now, we have 36 states, and we need to take seriously much more the agenda of investment promotion. What sort of engagements now do you expect to see at sub-national levels? It's quite disappointing, the level of growing nonchalance we've had, that we cannot necessarily turn a blind eye to from state governors. But using Lagos State as an example now, as a model state, what changes in approach do you expect even for Lagos State and other states replicating a much more aggressive investment front and also thinking sustainability, longevity?
Okay, so that's a good question, and we can't shy away from the fact that the investment that we've spoken about, the 8.99 billion that we reported for the third quarter, most of it, about 87% of it, came from Lagos, and then a percentage of it came from Rivers State, and then Ogun State, Oyo State, and Ogun State. Most of the other states had nothing to record, and this has been the pattern where most of them are just receiving from the central pocket. But that has to change. That necessarily has to change, because when we say that we're trying to attract investors, at the end of the day, the investors will come and they'll reside in a state. The businesses will sit in a state. So it's important that states start learning to become competitive. And one of the indices that the NIPC has relied on, and that we have relied on as well at PwC, is the subnational report on doing business in Nigeria. And it was a very telling picture of the states as they are and the ease of doing business in the states. The indices were used were like starting a business, getting approvals for construction, registering a property, and then enforcing contracts. And most of the states fell short of this. They had abysmal results, to be honest. Lagos State stood tall in starting a business, fair enough, but it had the lowest rating in construction permits, for instance, because understandably there are volumes and all of that have to be cleared, but also there's so many bottlenecks that could be eased off. And then many states have issues with enforcing contracts. No investor wants to come into a country, especially foreign investors who are not familiar with our laws, and then they don't know what to expect from our courts. They don't know for how long their funds are going to be tied, if there's any trade disputes and all of that. So these are things that we need to look at. States need to sit down and say, how can we make our state more viable, more interesting for people to come in? Again, with the AFTA, many places open up. Everybody can come in and take out of Nigeria, and they don't necessarily need to give into Nigeria as much if they find a compelling reason to stay outside. So there's a greater demand on states for them to position themselves properly. Now, how do we do these things? Things within your control them. Federal government will take care of bringing people in and all of that. But as a state, how easy is it to get permits? Some states have a 9-step process in registering a property. Some have as much as 30-step processes. How attractive then is it to invest in that state and get properties in that state? So let's ease things for investors. Let's make our states attractive to investors. This is not something the federal government can do for you. It's something that you have to draw in by yourself. Nobody's going to do it for the states. And the states that put in the effort, we start to see the results. Lagos State gets the results. Rivers State gets the results. So I'm looking forward to a time that all 36 states are actually making themselves attractive enough to draw investors into their states. And the NIPC has helped in this regard. There's something they published called the Book of States, which shows potential investors, the potentials in every state of Nigeria. It's a useful resource. It's online that can be downloaded. It shows what each state has to offer. But that's as far as NIPC can do for them. That's as far as the federal government can put in place for them. What then do you do by yourself to draw these people in? It can't always be the federal government, basically.
And talking about investment promotion, now sometimes it's quite an interesting scope when you're looking at the narrative from drawing in foreign investors, but we also have local investors who are willing to invest big. Now, in terms of regional lines, regional cooperation, take for example the Southwest or the Southeastern part of the country, wherever the regions are, in the need to create new hubs of production, of investment, also working, not necessarily working in silos, but in chains, managing resources, and also building a bigger front to enlarging the scope of investment. How do you see the regions also take the future of regional investment? How do you see that playing out?
The truth is, well, collaboration is the new competition. And regions have to work together. It's not just in saying, this is the geographical zone. This is each state and its neighboring states have things they can collaborate together to achieve. Ogun State is close to Lagos. Ogun State has overflow of employees working in Lagos and living in Ogun State. How then do we sort of harness these things? What can Ogun State put in place to make it a more attractive place for people to live, for instance, if you work in Lagos? So there's some, like in London, you always have like a greater London area, which is an overflow of the prosperity of London, if you like, that people live in. There's greater Manchester, there's greater Toronto area. There's always those areas that surround a hub, that they take advantage of the economic viability of that center. So it's about time that we start to leverage on geographical positioning and sometimes political affinity to achieve what each state seeks to achieve. It's possible if states will sit down and talk together. This is what you have, this is what I have. Let's see how we can collaborate and benefit from the synergy.
Now, wrapping up our conversation at this point in time, Olaitan, let's look at the big elephant in the room. In terms of investment promotion, we have to look at issues around insecurity. We have to look at issues around infrastructure deficit. We have to look at issues around seamless operations and all of those sort of challenges. Take it from those who are looking to invest in agriculture, in mining, in manufacturing, or be it even the services sector. All of these issues still remain, how do we put it simply, specks we have to just remove from our own eyes to have better vision of what is ahead of us in terms of attraction of more investment.
Absolutely. And every indices that we have around doing business and the ease of doing business, they pointedly do not go into security, bribery and corruption, and some macroeconomic indices. And this is telling. These are the things that we cannot ignore. These are the things that at the end of the day, however attractive your region is, ease of doing business is affected by the fact that, can I get my people to work safely? Can I get my people out of there safely if I need to? Case in point, Kaduna State and Jigawa State had the highest rating of the states against all indicators in doing business index, subnational index reports in Nigeria. However, we know that Kaduna State has security challenges. And so looking at the report and you say, Kaduna State looks like a good place to go into, but hang on a minute. How secure would the assets be? How secure would my people be, and all of that? So these are things we cannot ignore. While we are on the one hand trying to draw people into the country and into the states to do business, we also need to pay close attention to security and infrastructure. And infrastructure ties into security as well. If there's no good road network, people feel trapped into an unsafe place already. So if a place has security issues and there's even no certainty of being able to get there out of there as quickly as possible, it then further deepens the reluctance that investors would have in going into such regions. So these are, like you said, the elephants in the room that we need to address. So I'm confident that while federal government is looking towards this laudable project of the one-stop center, they're also, on the other hand, tackling the bigger issues, if you like, of insecurity, corruption, and other things that mar whatever successes this sort of one-stop center would have recorded.
We definitely need to see more incentives and appetites wet to have much more in terms of our investment promotion agenda. Thank you very much for your time on the show today. Olaitan Adedeji, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.